obviously appreciate both of you joining us here on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living conversation, and obviously a wonderful homey feel as well with the fireplace in the background. But here to talk about a variety of topics, and one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to nursing facilities, assisted living, some of the things that you guys do on a daily basis is how important diet is, how important meals are in creating an experience. And I guess we'll start with you, Megan, but how important is that? And I guess what is the most important thing, I suppose, that you see and do on a daily basis in trying to create this overall experience for residents?
Well, I think the big piece is, food is the fuel for recovery. I think that's one of the most important pieces from our aspect of things. Our job is to, feed our residents and guests. Our goal is to, serve good food out of a nice, clean kitchen. Well, I think one of the things that when it comes to our food that we might be a little bit different than others, we are very liberalized with our diets. So we do diet by consistency. And the therapeutic aspect of any type of diet is individualized per resident. So we have our registered dietitians that go in and do interviews with our residents and guests and find out what their goals are. So if they need something therapeutic in regards to cardiac or diabetic or renal restrictions, then it's individualized for each person. We don't believe in like the cookie cutter diet, so it's not one diet fits all. Renal patients, residents, guests, they can, some can have potatoes, oranges, and tomatoes. It all depends on what their lab work says. So it's real, all that coordination between the dialysis center dietitian and our dietitians in our facilities to more or less figure out what's best for our residents.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it seems like, at assisted living communities, there's almost this connotation or connection where it's, here's your tray of food, almost like next to a hospital bed. It's the same thing for everyone. You get your pudding, you get your fruit cup, whatever it might be. And obviously that's just not the case here. And I want to make sure that we emphasize that. So I guess, and Rachelle, will go to you. How tightly intertwined are the conversations where what you're offering and trying to get across to you and vice versa? I guess, what are those conversations like to try and individualize meals for all the residents?
We have lots of options as far as individualizing depending on the diet and what the resident's looking for. And that's what really drew me to WellBridge and NexCare is that it's meeting the patient where they are at and what they're willing to do. Because if they're not willing to do it at home, they're just going to end up right back in the hospital and come right back to us. And that's not our goal. We want you to be at home where you're comfortable and we want you to be successful. So when I meet with a resident, I'll ask them, do you want sugar-free condiments if you're a diabetic? Some of them don't believe in that. And that's a nice thing to say, that's fine. We have enhanced waters that are all natural, just lower sugar options. We do portion controls where everything on a regular diet is already kind of a diabetic friendly portion, which really is just a healthy diet. So talking with the kitchen, I can tell them, yes, sugar-free condiments, no dessert. We'd rather do a fresh fruit cup, or we'd rather do an enhanced water instead of a juice. So those are just some of the ways we can kind of speak on a one-to-one basis with the kitchen, where it's simple for the staff to understand. I'm switching out a regular syrup for a sugar-free. They don't have to think about what is a diabetic condiment and what does that mean.
And I guess what level of excitement do you see with residents families, when you can talk to them about literally a customized diet, a customized meal for them, for their health, for their needs, whatever it may be. I got to believe that's a huge talking point and a huge point of emphasis for all of you, being able to offer that every single day.
Absolutely. There's no more joy I have than when I see a resident that says, oh, you're the dietitian, you're going to put me on this nasty, bland diet that I don't like. And I get to say, you know what? I'm not that person today. I am the person that's going to say, what are you willing to do? If you're not willing to do it, let's try a different avenue. And maybe I can have one small change, but that change leads to a lifetime of difference. That's what it brings joy to them. It makes them trust me. And then we can start that working relationship.
What is the process like when you get a new resident comes in? Is there a sheet, an application, questionnaire, almost trying to figure out exactly all of the needs and what might be the fuel to get them back and moving and going and recovering? Is that kind of the genesis of how it begins?
Yeah, I say every resident or guest coming into the building, we do a nutrition assessment on. So with that assessment, we're kind of assessing all of their needs, looking at diagnosis, looking at medications, their ability to chew, swallow, things of that sorts. The big piece of importance does have to do with that diet. And the thing is, I think one of the most important things, there's no bad food. And I've always said that. I'm a registered dietitian myself, and I help design the menus. There's no bad food. Anything in moderation is fine. And I think that's one of the things that we really try to push, for our residents and guests. It's okay, if you want a piece of dessert here or there. When the menu is figured out, like how Rachelle had talked about, is like it's more consistent in carbohydrate across for our breakfast, our lunch, and dinner. And with that design, even if they weren't per se following or what they feel is a diabetic diet, their blood sugars are going to be better controlled because it's already set up to be more consistent. And then portion control, what Rachelle talked about too, is in the old diabetic portion sizes, things of that sorts. We stick to that because that's how we kind of keep that carbohydrate control throughout. And even for our desserts, then it's 1.5 serving of what a normal fresh fruit cup would be. So, and that's one of our ways to, that liberalization, utilizing fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, as much fresh proteins, things of that sorts, as much homemade foods. It makes our overall menu, our regular diet, more healthy for the residents. So even if they're not, avoiding salt or sugar or however, they want to say that they are getting a healthier diet. But like I said, I always say there's no bad food. Anything in moderation is fine. So we do have, burgers on our menus, things of that sorts. And we have a wide variety of items through our always available menu as well too. So if people want those healthier choices. We have salads, we have, grilled chicken, we have baked fish, different things of that, fresh fruits, pretty much and especially for breakfast, you can pretty much design, anything that you want.
It seems like, and even just having a conversation with you two, there's a lot of educating really that goes on with the residents. How receptive are they to hearing about, why you're eating this, why you can't have that, why you need moderation? And I guess how exciting is it if you hear 2 weeks down the line, a month down the line, hey, I am feeling better. This is working. I'm assuming that conversation happens from time to time.
Every now and then, yes, I would definitely say is that you have people that don't have the same thought value in regards, and I would say the diabetic resident or guest, old school ones, is what I'd say was where they used to be very controlled, not understanding the carbohydrate content of food, where they think that they need to have sugar-free ice cream and sugar-free pie, where that really doesn't make a difference when you're looking at the total carbohydrate amount, of the food item. So it is a lot of education with our residents and guests, but it's if they don't want to follow what we're doing, there are a lot of other options as well. And then we have people that should probably, be following certain things. But, what Rachelle said too, is that if they weren't making those decisions at home, they might not want to make them here. People do have a right to make poor decisions. But it's our job to do that education, to try to, educate them of the importance and the prevention of possible, side effects further in life, or of what might happen in regards to, say, blood sugar control. That diabetes is always a big one with that blood sugar control and how important that is with the healing process, So there is a lot of education, and our, dietitians do it every single day. We not only educate our residents, we educate our staff because everyone doesn't know about nutrition. We're the nutrition experts, but also our staff in the kitchen, so people come with their own thoughts on what should be, Well,
and I got to believe, chefs, people who are in, culinary and cooking food every single day probably want it to taste as good as humanly possible. So Absolutely. When you're going, nope, can't have that, we're taking that out, nope, we're not going to do that. how do you communicate, I guess, to get it across to them how important it is to follow these?
And that's a good question, because a lot of times you don't have to take a lot out. If people really understand, cooking and the cooking process, you do need salt for certain things, so we do use salt in the cooking process for the items that need it. But with having, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh meats and things of that sorts, and not pre-made food items, your overall sodium content of that meal is going to be a lot less than what it would be, from probably a lot of other companies. So, we're able to do that. There is sugar and salt have their need when it comes to cooking. It's like I'm a dietitian, but I always say as a foodie first, I understand the importance of food. I like to eat. And the thing is, we need our residents and guests to eat. Like I said, talking about recovery, they need that energy to be able to work with our therapy. If their goal is to discharge home, they need to eat to be able to have that energy, to reach whatever goals, whether it's healing, for pressure ulcers, it's getting stronger, prevention of falls. One of the things is, like, when I could talk about menu development for a long time, because I think there's a lot of people that really don't understand everything that goes into it. We're a company that, our owners, they know the importance of food. They know that food is a satisfier, and one of the nice things with that is, our protein content of our diet is higher, because with the population that we serve, there's big risk for falls. So we provide more protein with those meals, which will help prevent sarcopenia, or that muscle loss as people age. So there's a lot of things that we kind of do behind the scenes that people don't really, know about. But, like I said, it's all, there's a lot of important things that go into that menu.
I guess, obviously tremendous to just even learn myself a little bit more about what goes into this process, but I want to talk about you both a little bit as well. And I guess we can start with you, Rachelle. I guess what is your story, your journey, and why, is WellBridge, NexCare WellBridge Senior Living, why was this the ultimate destination for you? And I guess what keeps you here and motivated and wanting to continue to be a part of this culture?
So I started in long-term care and never thought I'd get into it, to be honest with you. I was going to be in pediatrics. I love children, but soon learned that that wasn't my calling. And I was in long-term care, worked for another company, and came for an interview at WellBridge at Brighton, and I fell in love with just the philosophy. I loved that there wasn't cookie cutter diets. I loved that I wasn't forced to put patients on certain diets. I had a lot of freedom to work with them as an individual, meet them where they were. I loved that I got to be a part of the kitchen. I got to educate the staff. I was going to go to Central to be a teacher and learned that I didn't like teaching boring subjects, but I love teaching about food and nutrition and health. And so I get to teach the staff about food safety. I get to teach the residents about healthy diets and how they can really change their life with food as a part of their medicine. And WellBridge offered that. WellBridge offered me to respect the residents with their rights, offer the education, be in the kitchen, get to feel like I actually get to teach what I enjoy.
And I guess for you, Megan, I know talking before we even started recording, you found Rachelle, or you like to, say there's a good story there, but yeah. I guess what was the genesis of that and bringing her on, and why, I guess, is this such a good dynamic and working relationship, obviously?
Okay. Well, over the last 6 years, we've transitioned 18 food service departments, opened up 3. We have 26 buildings altogether, and then transitioned 17 registered dietitians to be our own staff. So we had a lot of contracted services prior. That was really one of the main focuses of my job coming in. So one of the things, Rachelle was the dietitian for the contract company that we had at WellBridge of Brighton. And when I met her, I always knew that she she had that certain spark, you know what I mean? It's like she had good eye for detail, wonderful with the residents, wonderful with the staff, you know, and I always thought in the back of my head, you know, as we were transitioning some of these buildings, that she was on my list that, you know, if I could get her, I wanted to. Yeah. So, you know, we kind of kept in touch a little bit, you know, but then when that opportunity arose, we initially hired her for, to be a float dietitian, actually, and soon realized that it was pretty much impossible for one person to help cover 26 positions when people were on vacation and things of that sort. So she more or less transitioned into a culinary specialist position, where I have two. Rachelle is one. She's a registered dietitian by trade, and we have another one, Mary. Dziedzic. Oh, she brand new, married, new name, and she is her background is food service. So, I just think it's like one of the nice things is that the opportunity that we have had as a company is with all of those transitions in-house, it gave a lot of our staff opportunity for growth. You know, so we do have a lot. Mary, for instance, was a bistro manager at one of our WellBridge buildings. And she moved herself up into a culinary service director and then a senior director over 2 buildings. And now she is part of, you know, our team. So we have multiple, like I said, Rachelle's kind of moved to, we have a lot of, we do a lot in regards to, say, registered dietitians or dietitians going through the coordinated programs or doing their internship. We do open our doors and do a lot of that preceptor training for them. And from having that, we have some of those dietitians are now our employees, which is always pretty neat, you know what I mean, to have. But, you know, the thing is that if people want to learn, then there's opportunity, you know? So, and I think that's the biggest key is that even if they don't have any experience at all, but the will or the want, you know what I mean? I think that piece is huge. You know, it's like, come in, we can teach you, you know? It's like, there's a lot of people that have never, we've had food service directors that didn't have a whole lot of cooking experience and now can do, you know, a beautiful job. You know, it's like, the thing is that continued learning, that continued growth. And that's one of those things is that we really try to encourage because there are opportunities. You know, we are a growing company. There's, you know, it's not even just in, you know, our culinary area. There's opportunities
that seems
throughout.
To be a common thread. I mean, with whomever, you know, from whatever department, you know, that we've talked to, is that there's opportunity for growth. There's room to come in. This isn't just going to be, you're doing this and it's a dead end position. You're going nowhere.
Right.
There truly is. If you have an interest or a passion for this, we'd love to educate you and show you what you could potentially do. Just like this other door, you know, over here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the same way clearly in culinary as well. I guess if for the ideal candidate or for somebody out there who's thinking about applying or wanting to be a part of this, what is enticing about joining, you know, your team and coming into NexCare WellBridge?
Well, do you want to?
Well, I was just going to say for me, it was an opportunity to take something that I had perfected on a building level, and now I get to expand.
Duplicate.
And replicate. I get to teach dietitians now. I get to teach other food service managers. So I took that love that I had at one, and now look at how many hundreds or thousands of people I'm helping. It's exponential. And so I think having people on our team that are willing to learn and take on more, there's huge opportunity. We try to do like sister facilities where 2 managers kind of co-manage and co-help each other. So that way they're getting to see different teams, different situations, and they can build their skills a little bit higher and a little bit higher. I have dietitians that help us with when there might be an opening or an intern, and they kind of take on another facility temporarily and really get to say, oh, well, this is a different system or this is a different staff and how they work together, and it poses its own challenges. So they get to kind of hone their skills even greater. So that's what I've loved about kind of working my way through the company too, is that opportunity rose for me to say, I want to teach more, I want to expand. And now I have dietitians that are my babies where they're teaching dietitians and they're teaching interns. So just seeing that almost generational education, and it's been awesome.
On a daily basis, and you're going to get the same question as well, so start thinking about it. But what is, on a daily basis, I'm not giving you time to prepare, what is the singular most satisfying part of being a part of this company, doing the job that you do? Is there a singular thing or a couple of things that you can point to that every single day I go home, I drive home after, and I just think, wow, this is amazing?
There's a few. I would say one is a clean plate, going into a resident's room and seeing that food gone and having them say, that was amazing. I literally had a resident yesterday that was like, this is some of the best food I've ever had. And my daughter watches Epic Eats, which is our forum to kind of look at our meals. And she's like, I can't believe you guys make that kind of food. And why can't you make that at home? And I'm like, I'm not a chef, but it makes me proud. It makes me proud. I have dietitians that are like, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you and Megan. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the owners who believe in us and it's more of a company that's built on, we want to teach you so that you can teach others versus you did it wrong, you're out the door. It's embracing, it's welcoming, and it's all about uplifting everybody. And when your staff are uplifted, you can uplift your residents. So I like that part of our company.
And I guess for you, Megan, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, it's seeing those smiles on those faces. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I think that makes, when I think about all this has been a tough couple years, it's always been, for our residents and guests, because that's what we're here for. We can be in those seats someday, or in those beds. And I think that's why I have such a passion for what I do. It's for them. I think about my own parents and grandparents and things of that sorts, and some have been in, long-term care facilities. But I wish that when they did have that experience, it would be what we can provide, to them now. But it's not even just for our residents, because that's a big piece, but it's also for our staff. It's like we're a big family. It's like I care for each and every one of them. We do have a very strong group of executive chefs, food service directors, dietitians, people, staff, plain and simple staff. And, like when they come to you with questions or concerns or things of that sort, just knowing that you're able to help them. We want them all to be successful. And I think that's the biggest thing. And one of the biggest challenges is not being able to be boots on the ground at every building, but, just being that resource. Myself too, is I like to teach, and especially if it's something that, that I enjoy. I do enjoy nutrition. I really enjoy cooking and baking. But it's for those, our residents and guests.
So if somebody is thinking about joining, your team, your staff, wanting to learn, wanting to educate themselves in this area, are there open positions? What I guess is the process of that right now?
Yeah, I would say we're not going to turn down any application for anything. Whether that's a manager, a dietitian, people transition, they move on, we reconfigure things, as a company, as we go. We are in the process we had to shut down our bistros with the initiation of, or the start of the pandemic. So we are in the process of getting those back open. So we'll be looking for baristas and bistro staff. We do have some cook and aide positions available at multiple buildings. But really, it's even if there's not an ad out, it's applying. And, just I don't think anybody would ever turn down an interview, and really the big piece of it is that want, that willingness and that wanting to learn. If that is what you're looking for, somewhere where you can, kind of grow, learn, it's a great place, for you to work.
Excellent. Well, appreciate you both, joining us here, and obviously a ton of education, and learned a lot. And honestly, it is very cool to see what you're doing at all of these different communities. So appreciate you joining us here on the NexCare WellBridge Senior Living conversation.
Thanks.